I'm passionate about so many things.
Hello, 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 and good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here in Lagos. It's quite raining, and for those of us that are not in Lagos, I don't know if it's raining on your end, but good morning, everybody. So nice to be here. Another edition of HNN Activate, where we gather to share, of course, insights relating to entrepreneurship and technology and, other topics around it. So nice to be here. We're discussing topic of remote work today. And I'm sure that a lot of people has at one point or the in time or the other considered working remotely. Sorry about that. Kemi, you might need please note that your audio is disturbing us. All right, so good morning, everybody. So nice to be here and so nice to have you. While we have other people join, just take us through, some housekeeping. We have two speakers joining us today. Mayowa Ayodeji, who is the founder of Endowd, and we have Oluchi Enebeli, who is founder at Web3 Ladies. joining us and sharing. They'll be sharing insights with us today, answering questions, and a pretty wonderful time. I can see my wife in the house. Hi, Mayowa. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Hi, Emmanuel. Good morning. I can hear you. It seems I'm still getting settled into my technical setup. So if you don't mind, I'm still getting ready. But yeah, good morning. I can hear you very well. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. It's a beautiful time out we're going to have today. While you sort out your technicalities over there, just kindly let me know as soon as it's all good to go, and we'll engage. Basically, we're going to have a 1 hour, 30 minutes run today, as we usually do. We would have keynote sessions from both speakers, and we would have a panel session where we would, of course, have questions and answers. So if you have questions for the speakers, please, during their conversation or during their discuss, you can do well to note down the questions. You can post the questions in the questions feed while they're asking or while they're talking, or you can wait till the end of the keynotes, which when we get into the panel session, you can wait till then to ask your questions. So basically that's the turn it's going to take, and we're going to have to do that. Okay, how do I get them to join in? Please hold on. Okay. I can get that for you as well. Let me pop that. Please hold on. I'm trying to start something. Okay. All right. So, growing a business in the world of remote working. I know that we have talent in tech here, we have entrepreneurs in tech here, and at some point in time or the other, a lot of us must have, come in contact with people who had said they prefer to work remotely, or you yourself would have preferred to transition to a remote role. Some of us, particularly people like me, don't necessarily like to come to the office every day. There are times I just don't want to, be in the faces of everybody. And I just rather work from home or go to a co-working space and stuff like that. And in times like that, you wonder, oh, okay, so is this how it's going to be? We've been working remotely, especially particularly in tech, for years now, but remote working got a bit more emphasized after COVID, right? And a lot of people now want to work remotely. Creatives, non-creatives, guys in tech, guys not in tech. Everybody, it feels like, oh, it's so chill. You can just be in your house, wake up at 8:58 a.m. in the morning, and still be able to, join a meeting for 9 a.m. That happens, right? And basically, it sounds like something that's cool, good to go and everything. However, how does this impact work? How does it impact individual work? How does it impact the way you work as a person? You get how you deliver your tasks, how you are productive. Does it, impact your productivity level? Does it make it easier for you to work, or is it really harder for you to work? A lot of Nigerian employers don't like people working remotely, particularly because, in their opinion, it doesn't make people productive. People are not concentrating and things like that. And there needs to be a balance to all of this, right? But particularly, so the question now is, what are we going to adopt? I know some companies already adopt the fully remote model. Some companies hybrid model. And some companies, you have to come to the office, right? They need to see your face to feel like you're working. But how is it going to be moving forward? How exactly is this affecting us? And how do we get the best out of it if we already do it? And all of that. So these conversations we're going to be having today. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from our keynote speakers, see their perspectives on this. I'm sure that they've tested different types of working, different categories, both hybrid, remote, and in office, and we'll see what they have to say, particularly with the generation that we have now, and then the way the world is now. Personally, I like to be a nomad, right? I want to travel the world and work wherever I am. And I don't want that to affect the way I work, or I don't want it to affect my productivity level. I don't want it to affect the kind of results that I churn out. I don't want it to affect, how awesome I will be or I am at work. And I've been figuring out ways to do it. I've been figuring out how to live that kind of a life. Very soon, I'm going to just transition fully, but I'm taking it slow, bit by bit. Let's take it there. While we wait for Oluchi to join, I'm going to ask Mayowa to turn on his video now if it's good. I think he says ready. Right. So, hi. Good afternoon.
Morning.
Oh, morning. Sorry.
Yeah, good morning. Where so I'm in Lagos today. I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. So it's morning.
Great. Morning. How you doing?
Very well. Good to see you.
Can you hear me? How you doing?
Yes, I can hear you well. Good morning.
Is it? Okay, great. It's raining in Lagos, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. And I think we have Oluchi as well. Hi, Oluchi.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can see you. Can you see us? Can you hear me? Oh, beautiful. You look like somebody who is in the metaverse and recently just popped out for a quick one. So good to have the both of you here. Thank you so much for joining. Oluchi, where are you calling from? Are you in Lagos or Dubai?
Okay, I'm actually in Maldives.
Oh, you're in the Maldives. Okay. You see, that's the thing. You're my role model. You're the kind of person I want to be rolling with. Today you're in Dubai, tomorrow you're in Egypt. Come on.
I mean, it's the word of remote working now.
Thank you. And that's why we come here to discuss this.
Gives you.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right into it. We'll just have introductions first, and then we'll take Mayowa's keynote first. After Mayowa's keynote, we'll take Oluchi's keynotes next, and then we'll go straight into the panel session where we'll have questions from both the audience, and then I have some questions I'd like to also engage the both of you on anyways. So let's take the keynotes and then we'll take the panels, briefly, and then we go into it. But before we do that, I'd like just to, for introduction's sake, Mayowa, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are. We know you're in tech for sure. Let us know where you play in tech, what aspect of, tech basically you're in, and what you do in there, what value you're bringing to the ecosystem. And then we can have your keynotes. Please go ahead.
Okay, so I was just about to drop some things in the host and panelist chat group that you should enable screen sharing.
Okay.
I guess that's my keynote. All right.
You can share your screen if you need to.
Okay, I prepared a few slides just to guide my keynote anyway. So
awesome.
Let's see. Does that work?
Yep, we can see your screen.
Okay, great. My name is Mayowa Ayodeji. I like to see myself as a tech venture builder, meaning what I care about the most right now, waking up every day and doing something, is building excellent tech products, digital tech products, and tech teams, tech organizations. my career so far has seen me play multiple hats in every single job I've had. All right. And yeah, that's what I see myself as. And my core experiences are, or will I say my core strengths are in business development, product management, project management, and operations management. So I'm that tech guy, I'm that tech bro that cannot write code.
we know ourselves. We know ourselves.
No, not as tech bro. That is big English. Suits Twitter.
We like money instead. We prefer the money.
Right. That's why my journey into tech actually was coincidental, and at the same time I loved it. So my undergraduate degree was in electrical engineering, but the day I finished my undergraduate degree, right, I knew that I was not going to be doing anything called engineering, because in my undergraduate days, I didn't have the best technical experience. Maybe if I had a better experience, I would have been maybe a city or something today, but no, I didn't have that. So I knew that I wanted to be in the management and in the business side of tech businesses. So I studied for an engineering business management degree in the UK. And even as at the time I finished my master's degree, I thought I was going into the automotive industry. You know, my school was very close to Jaguar Land Rover, so I thought I was going to go join Land Rover, build, you know, the vehicles of the future, those kind of things, you know. But man, I came back to Nigeria and I got a tech job, and I basically learned on the job, and I wore several hats on the job. All right. So joining and leading IQ Labs for, you know, a number of years opened me up to a lot of things in technology. All right, IQ Labs being a consultancy, right? A consultancy and a tech R&D company. It puts me in a position where I had to interact with so many industries that tech was enabling. So I led so many different projects across so many different industries, having a good understanding of how those industries work and how technology powers them. All right. And then, you know, I joined Big Power, Web3, where I say blockchain infrastructure company. And now I founded Endowd.Africa, trying to solve an important problem using technology, all right? But if I'm to tie all of my experience into our topic today, I would say I've been lucky to mostly work with remote-friendly companies. All right. Even before I joined tech fully. So while I was in the UK, I worked with this organization called the Office for Students. And it's basically like, okay, we have majorly Nigerian audience, right? So if you think about NUC, right, Nigerian Universities Commission, that kind of a thing. So they were, the organization was responsible mainly for, you know, education standards for education institutions in the UK and blah, blah. And I was on a particular panel that lasted for about 6 months. And the job was to evaluate the quality of teaching across UK universities. So bombarded with these, you know, with a lot of data crunching, creating metrics, creating models to evaluate, okay, how good is the teaching standard in Cambridge? How good is the teaching standard in Swansea? How good is the teaching standard in Birmingham and all of that? But here's what I'm getting at with that. It was a job that required a lot of data crunching, a lot of cross-referencing with your colleagues and everything, but was fully remote, right? And we were brought into, so this was a good part of the job. This is why the job was really interesting. It was fully remote, right? But we were flown out to different cities every month to camp there for 2 days, at least, to do the work, and we're put in the best hotels. So think about, you know, the best places in London, in Birmingham, in Manchester. I mean, it was cool. There was a time, okay, when we were in Manchester, our work was actually based in Old Trafford. And luckily for me, being a football fan and a Manchester United fan, it felt like pilgrimage, like, oh wow, like this is it, right? So, I mean, I really enjoyed working remotely. But then there was a perk that came with the job, right? The employer was hosting us in different places, changed environments, you know, and, you know, it made me embrace remote work and really enjoy it at that time. At least I was looking forward to the days where I would meet my colleagues and everything and all of that. So IQ Labs from inception has been like a 70% remote company. And IQ Labs was founded in like 2011. So this is not even a case of maybe it was the COVID-19 pandemic that made IQ Labs a mostly remote company, but it has always been like that. Virtual company, although the office is in Yaba, but when I joined, it was the hybrid model, but then I led the company through the COVID-19 pandemic. We had to adjust and all of that. And some of the things I've learned through that journey is what I'll be sharing today. All right, Be Power, fully remote company. We're now founded in Endowd.Africa. We are fully remote. We've been working for a couple of months. Only a few of us have met physically twice. And for most of those months, all of us have been in Lagos. So yeah, that's me.
Beautiful. Wow, quite a journey. When you look at it, there's, to a large extent, a lot of people in tech really find themselves in tech accidentally somehow, which is interesting because tech didn't used to be so cool. Back in the days, 2012, 2014, when our friends were just, beginning to get in tech, they were coding. And it didn't seem like what everybody wanted to do. It was tough work. I mean, you can try it for a bit and you're like, nah. I tried learning coding like 3 different times. Like, for real, 3 different times. I started with HTML, CSS. You first of all be enjoying it, and then you're enjoying it, and then you're doing all this, your hello world. You check the browser, wow, it's showing. And then until you start doing core things, you're like, come on, I'm sleeping at this thing. I don't think how to do. Then you now start looking for your niche. What can you do else? Is it management? Would you rather just manage products or manage people, or what other things? And I think that's like pretty cool. Everybody has different journeys into tech, but what matters is that we're all playing in the space, right? And we're all bringing value to the table. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd like to hear from Oluchi with what she's been doing at Web3 Ladies, and a couple of other companies that I know that she's co-founded over the years, and she's been doing beautiful work with them there. Oluchi, 2 minutes. Give us an introduction of yourself, what your core is, and how you like to work.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel. And beautiful background, Mayowa, especially the travel, the trips, really nice. I'm Oluchi Enebeli, and like Mayowa, I started my background in software engineering. I studied mathematics in school, and when I was done with that, I decided to try tech. I did a couple of things before I settled in, because I started up with a startup firm. So first of all, before I went into software engineering, I first of all was trying my hands on network engineering, right? Just trying to write my CCNA exam and all of those stuff. But I didn't really get a company to do, sort of like intern with around that period. So I decided to dive into software engineering, and I started off a startup, right? So that was like my first experience in the space. When it comes to startup, you mostly have to wear different hats, right? So at that time, I was doing like a couple of things. A lot of that, I did graphics design, did product design, all that stuff is so funny. But yeah, I went through all of that, and then I settled in software engineering, and then later on, I transitioned into blockchain engineering, and then added technical product management to my set of skills, right? But in all, I would say my work revolves around engineering, product, and management, right, in the space. Management mostly because I'm the co-founder of Crevatal, and also the founder of Web3 Ladies, right? So a bulk of what I do there revolves around just managing teams, leading team, coming up with an idea, a vision, missions or goals, a key objective result that we want to attain as a company or as a community, and then trying to buy my teams and trying to buy that passion into like the vision, and then leading them to like achieving that, right? So a couple of management, a lot of managerial stuff, and then product and engineering, right? So those are like the 3 areas I think I'm currently making impact in the space, and it's interesting. It's interesting because most of the startups that I've worked with, apart from like the first company or the first 2 companies I worked with, that's Credit and Sterling Bank, right? Queenet, when I started off, I started working with Queenet, and it was fully, it was on site, right? So it wasn't remote, right? So my first experience was an on site one, and then I moved to, Sterling Bank, and Sterling Bank had a very beautiful mix, a very beautiful work, sort of like work culture, right? It's you go to work every day, but then it has like it's highly flexible, right? So you have you can choose, I think, the timing at which you come to work, and then you have like some, I think they give some days off at a time. I don't know if it's still a thing now, right? But Sterling Bank was already in that path to like remote working. I mean, it was quite interesting working there. And then from Sterling Bank, I moved on to like fully remote thing. I work with Bondu, with Binance, with Crypto.com. Currently working with Equality, and all of those stuff have fully been remote, and it's really interesting the amount of flexibility that remote working gives to you, right? And I'm really enjoying that, because I'm starting to sort of like explore other options, even as a remote worker and a remote founder, being able to work from like different countries, traveling different places, and it's beautiful what you get to learn from different people, right? It just opens your mind. It opens your the way you view things, the way you say things, and then even gives room for more productivity, creativity, and a different perspective towards solving problems, right? So people that travel a lot and that are more exposed tend to come up with like better solutions for problem, because they see the world in a different light, through the lens of other cultures and other people, right? And that's one reason why I love remote working, and I'm happy to be on this panel today, or to even be giving a keynote on remote working. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Great. Thank you so much. You definitely like remote working because you're in the Maldives right now. I mean, what are you talking about? Yeah, in the Maldives. Mayowa and I are currently in Lagos, where all of us can call home, right? To an extent. But I know that to a lot of people, home is, thank you. Home is now really, home is no more a place. Home is wherever you are, right? I remember there was one time, there was a time a friend of mine reached out to me, and I had seen this friend a day before in Lagos. And so she reached out to me the following day for something. And then she's like, oh, hey, so I'm coming over to pick. I'm like, coming over to where? I mean, I'm not around. What do you mean you're not around? But you've been working. I've been seeing communication. Yeah, I know I'm working, but I'm not around. What do you mean you're not around? I'm in Abuja right now. When did you get to Abuja? What are you talking about? I'm in Abuja, I'm working. Don't worry. Is it that you took off? I'm not off. I am working. A week after that, I was in Dubai. She reached out again, asking if I was back. I'm like, sorry, I'm not back. Okay, are you in Abuja? That's what to come out. I'm not in Abuja too. What is happening? Where you did? Exactly. And being able to work from different cities. I recently started transitioning into the nomadic lifestyle myself. And it's awesome, right? As Oluchi has said, you see the world from the lens of different cultures. When you're in different cities per time, you're working, but you're also able to infuse yourself in the culture, in new places, meeting new people, basically enjoying new experiences. But there's a comma to that. So the majority of people who work for Nigerian companies, it is not easy to afford that kind of a lifestyle. But I'll get there. There's a huge question I have around that. Affordability of, working remotely from anywhere you want in the world, right? Because some people, we know that even the one they are working, the Lagos that they are working on, it's God that is helping them. Not to talk of, not as them to be jumping from, city to city every 3 months. But we'll get there. I mean, because I know that there are ways people navigate and transition all these things. We'll get there. Before we get to the panel, when we will begin to have these questions and then we'll have these conversations, we'll just go straight into the keynotes. We have 20 minutes each for our keynotes. You can use less, that's fine. Try not to use more so we can keep the time for everybody. That would be awesome. So we'll take Mayowa's keynote now, then Oluchi's keynote. Mayowa, you've got the mic.
All right, thank you so much. The topic that was given me is actually not what is on the screen. Yes, what was given me is
what's on the screen is a theme. Then you have your own keynote, which is I think the future of our workforce or something like that.
Yeah. So yeah, I have it here, the future of our workforce, but I've sort of put a question mark, and like, is it really the future? Because I think it's not a straight out, right? It's a case of it depends, and then we need to strike a balance, right? So I'll try to go through my slides and just speak to us, mostly my honest thoughts, and then I'll ask a question at the end. I don't know if the attendees or the participants will be able to respond. So just give a case example, and then I believe it is entrepreneurs that we're speaking with, right? And then ask them how they will set up the team in the end. So maybe we can work towards that. So, right, something or two things that remote work is not. Number one, remote work is not a new trend since the COVID-19 pandemic. I see a lot of, we speak about remote work a lot in different, quarters and everything. And many people speak from the lens of, 2020 pandemic. These are, keep quiet. There's been remote work since forever. It's not pandemic that caused it, right? So, people have been working remotely for ages, right? People, it only became more mainstream because of the pandemic, right? And I think you mentioned that before we actually got into the discussion. Remote work has been happening since ever since, all right? It's just you that needs to adapt and, right? So second one, remote work, pardon me. Why does it sound like a tongue twister for me this morning? Remote work is not work from home. All right, they're different things. We could wax philosophical about this question that home is where you are, home is where the art is, home is wherever you are, and all those things. But truly, like in the theory sense of it, right? Remote work is not the same thing as work from home. And if you look at the sort of, Venn diagram that I've put in the screen now, work from home is actually a subset of remote work, right? But remote work is bigger than just working from home. Look at Oluchi is working from the Maldives, right? I don't know if that's where she's based now. My understanding, I think Oluchi, you live in Dubai, right? You live in the UAE right now. But then she's working from Maldives. Yeah, okay, great. But
that's her last known address. Oluchi, no, I don't understand. Oluchi is everywhere.
All right, but she's working from the Maldives now. I don't know how long she'll be there for, but then she's not home, right? But then she's still working. She's still getting stuff done. All right. So remote work is bigger than work from home. So let's get that straight. Right. So remote work essentially is working outside of your company's physical office space, period. That's it. So whether you're working from a co-working space where, or maybe you went to your friend's house to work because in your own house, landlord has refused to pay NEPA, cut your lights, whatever it may be, right? So long you're not working from within the physical, office space of your company, that's remote work. All right, we don't need to make it any complex or anything. So, and while I was preparing, I was thinking through. I've seen some interesting facts about remote work, and I'll just share about two of them. So now. Okay, I think I made a typo here. okay, no typo. All right. Remote work is interesting because it's been found that remote employees end up working for more time than the guys that work in office on site. And this starts, I think, was it by Time magazine, researching companies around the world. They found out that employees work 1.4 more days per month than remote employees work 1.4 more days per month than in-office employees, than on-site employees, which essentially is about 17 additional work days a year. That means there's an extra month of work that guys are clocking in, right? For free, right? So we'll talk about, setting boundaries and all of that towards the end of it. But yeah, that's an interesting fact about remote work. Another interesting one is 16% of companies globally, anywhere in the world, right, are fully remote. That's staggering. That's interesting, right? 16% are fully remote, and 62% of workers, essentially the backbone of the workforce. 22 to 65, which other age they work again, right? They work remotely, one way or the other, occasionally or fully. All right, and that's interesting. That tells us that this remote work thing is not something far-fetched. It's not something out of the. It's our reality, and it has been even before the pandemic. All right. Now, is remote work the future of our workforce? All right, let me give you my honest thoughts here. I think remote work has always been part of our workforce setup, right? Is it the future? I think it depends is the real answer. But it has a strong role to play. It has an important role to play in the way we set up our workforce for excellence in the future. We cannot run away from it. We definitely cannot run away from it. Okay. Yeah, this is the first thing I plan to say. My thoughts on remote work. First of all, it is here to stay. And remember I said remote work has always existed, right? But when I say it is here to stay, I mean, working remotely is going to get more mainstream. And I mean, there are a number of founders, even startup founders, that are not remote work friendly. I am an advocate for balance. All right. I believe the situation, the kind of company you're building. I mean, I will share the criteria that I feel you should use to determine how you structure your company in the when you're setting up a company. I'll share that soon. But anyways, remote work is here to stay, which means that remote work will be more prevalent than it has been before. And as an entrepreneur, as a business leader who is trying to set up an excellent team that collaborates well, that is very efficient, you will need to learn to deal with, apply, and institute remote work the right way to get the best out of your team and the best for your company. There are a lot of advantages and there are a few disadvantages as well. All right. So my thoughts on remote work. I feel remote work should be adopted, but with discretion. All right. It's not just everybody, let's do remote just because you want to follow the trend. You need to do it well. You need to one question you need to ask yourself: are you in a good position to support the needs of your staff remotely? That's a good question you need to ask yourself. Because it is my belief that if your staff are not performing while working remotely, it is not always on them. It might be on you as well as an employer. So you need to think about that carefully. So it must be adopted and must be done properly. So another thought on remote work. If remote work is not working for you, don't be afraid to pivot to hybrid or on-site. Again, it depends on a number of factors, right? So don't do remote work just for remote work's sake. Don't do on-site just because you feel you must see them in front of their computers pressing it every day. That is how you know they're working. No, don't do that, right? But if you try it and it's not working well, either you don't know how to do it well, or maybe it's not just working for your kind of company, the stage of growth of your company, the demography of workers you have. My friend, don't be afraid to pivot. In the end, if your company should fail, they won't say it's because you're working remotely. If your company should succeed, they won't say it's because you're working remotely. Right. All right. Has anyone heard about hybrid work? I think hybrid work is the most prevalent type of work these days. I mean, if we now take a cue from the pandemic, we realize that a lot of companies, they've had to adapt. But a lot of people have gone back into the offices since the winding down of the pandemic as well. But I have noticed a trend. Every company that is going back into the office, right? No one is going 100%. Everyone is now fine because, first of all, you want them to drag you. You want them to drag you. But first of all, right? Remote work has proven to be a key factor in employee retention, employee satisfaction. It's something that is a wild card for you to attract top talents from all over the world. All right, so people have tried to balance it now. So come to the office a few days of the week. Other days work remotely from anywhere you are in the world, or some come a few days in the month, other days in the month work from anywhere and all of that. So hybrid work, that's really the future of work, in my opinion, right? That's really the future of work. Being able to balance everything out. When you need to meet, you meet. When you need to work, offsite, you work offsite. I'll tell you. So I gave an example of, by the way, it's not everywhere that I've worked. I mentioned when I was giving, my background, I once worked in HSBC Bank in Coventry, UK for 2 months, and it was fully on site. You clock in about, I think, 7:30 or 7 a.m. Clock out like 5:30, 6 p.m. But I understood. I mean, it's a bank, and it's not a new bank, right? It's a traditional bank, and I was working in a very sensitive department where they ones processing personal insurance for people in the UK. And the role is so sensitive that if anyone else sees anything you're doing, it could like actually indict the company, and it could lead to a big case of fraud and stuff like that. So everybody had to be in the office. I mean, when you're even going into the office, it's like you're going through airport security check. You have to drop all your devices. You have to, you can't bring, the only thing you can take into the office was a white sheet of paper. And they will certify that there's nothing on it. Like they give you the pens you used to work with, whatever, the computers, everything they give it to you. You just come by yourself. It remains small, maybe we come as Adam, right? But yeah, so I've worked in that environment. So I've not only worked in, but something about hybrid work that I want to point out. Look at the work experience I told you about, working with Office for Students in the UK, where for say 20-something days in the month, we're working remotely from where we are, crunching a lot of data on our laptop, blah, 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 pushing our, our updates to our colleagues and everything. But every month, we were taken to an interesting location to collaborate together. In as much as the work essentially was more remote than on-site, that's sort of hybrid. But in a way, it's still remote because every new city they flew us to meet and collaborate and work. It was not the actual physical office space of the company. Just thinking about it. The physical office space was in Bristol in UK, but most of us on the job never went to Bristol. We were working from Manchester, from Birmingham, from London, from different areas, right? We were being flown to. But anyways, now let's come down to iCube Labs, right? Before the pandemic, iCube Labs had this policy of, I think, 3 or 4 days on site, one day remote. And that was only for people living in Lagos. And iCube had employees all over Lagos, Kano, Abuja, Osun State, Akure, and at some point we had people working from outside the country as well. But for people in Lagos, we were working, for some people, 2 days on site, 3 days off site. For some, 4 days on site, 1 day off site. You might ask that, how did we choose, even within Lagos, who to come on site, who not to come on site, who not to come work from the company? And it was simply based on how far away from the physical office we were living. So the physical office space is in Yaba, right? But imagine you telling someone that is living in Egbeda, if you know Lagos well, imagine you telling someone that is living in Egbeda to be coming to work 4 days a week. How do you get them to be productive when they've spent the first 2 hours of their day in traffic, whether they be in a cab or they entered Molwe or Danfo or whatever, right? So imagine telling those kind of people, maybe they manage to make it to work like 8:30 in the morning, and then you're like, boom, 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 let's start hitting that. Nigga, you will calm down. You let them rest, because I mean, the work you're doing is mentally taxing, right? So we needed to adapt to that reality. So we had to like break it down, all right? And what we tend to favor the days that there wasn't a lot of traffic. So we didn't like working on site on Mondays and on Fridays. We work on site on Thursdays when there's environmental, when the traffic is less. So we had to plan around those things. So as an employer, you need to be empathetic. You need to think about all those things when you're instituting remote or on-site work. So advantages of remote work. One of the biggest advantages, and why many companies, right, are adopting it, they just will not pay, is because it reduces company overheads. I mean, if a company that's gone fully remote will not pay rent. A company that's gone fully remote will not pay for the enterprise level broadband that they pay Swift and pay all these guys in the company. A company that's gone fully remote will not pay, domestic, or will I say office management staff to manage the cleaning and all of that. All of that is off your P&L, all right? Remote work is attractive to top tech talents. Let's not deceive ourselves. Most of the best guys, they want to work on their terms from wherever. I mean, our bosses like Oluchi, you know, that kind of thing. All right. So the top tech talents, remote work is attractive to them. And you need to deal with that if you're going to build a tech business. I mean, you can't run away from it. You need the best tech people to deliver your company objective. Especially the funded startup that you don't have time to be grooming people. You have to deal with it, right? And it could be more effective. And I use the word could intentionally because if you don't do remote work properly, if you don't create a culture that helps people work well, working remotely, it might not be effective for you. All right. I've worked somewhere before where, most of the staff, that job was like their first career job. Right? Their first job in their career. I mean, they've never worked somewhere. Some of them had not even finished school. So they didn't understand most of the collaboration etiquette. They didn't understand that, if your company says 9 a.m. is the meeting, you need to show up by 9. So imagine a fully remote company and people are showing up late for meeting. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, are you kidding me? Imagine a fully remote work where people show up late for meetings and they don't see it as a big deal. Like, people don't yet have that real professional work experience, professional culture imbibed into them. So like, it's not difficult for you to do, to correct those things virtually. It's difficult for you to do the non-verbal communication cues, the things that will help people see how important what you are. So if you don't do it properly, it might be less effective. So yeah. What are disadvantages of remote work? By the way, let me just quickly say that all these points that I'm sharing, they are inexhaustive. There are so many other points. You can go online, go to YouTube, go to different places, learn about these things. I mean, we are limited on time. So I think I've even overrun my time. But yeah, let me quickly wrap up, right? These points are just short summary. So there's a lot more things you can learn about remote work outside. So it's difficult to achieve a good work-life balance. Remember that fact that I said that remote workers tend to work 1.4 more days a month than. Do you know that it's not because they want to? They just sort of get dragged into it, right? So when you're working remotely, let's say the version of remote work you're doing is work from home, right? And maybe you're in a comfortable place, you're just on your computer, it looks relaxing, you're working, but then your brain is doing a lot of work. Many a time, you're not conscious of the time. So let's say the office is like 9 to 5, right? Sometimes by 5, let me just get this extra thing done. Let me just send this email to this person. Let me just ask this guy for updates. They've yapped all of us that we do project and product management a lot. There's always yappers that the only thing we know how to do is ask alpha. you just want to, because it's 5:10, you just want to know the status of the project before tomorrow. You ask alpha. And you don't know that's when the dev are just started work. So he has your time at that time. You now give you better updates. You go begin before you know, you've dragged it from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Before you know it, you've woken up at 1 a.m. and you're bored, and you just go to your laptop and open it and you start working. Right? So it now gets very difficult to achieve a good work-life balance when you're working remotely. One of the ways you can live this in the body is have a dedicated space where you're working. So maybe you're working from a co-working area, or you're working from wherever it may be, or from home. You need to have a space. For example, now in my house, I dedicated a whole room as my office. Nothing else happens there. I set up a desk, chair, everything. So when I'm going to work, I walk into that place and it is work mode. And, by the time it's time to leave the place, by the time I start hearing my wife walk up and down, I know that, okay, yeah, stand up and leave this place. So I sort of created that environment that helps me zone out of it. So remote work, a disadvantage of remote work is poor communication all around. So communication is beyond just being on a video call, speaking via an audio call and everything, or sending a text. There's sometimes that you communicate well, in a well-rounded way with your colleagues when you send non-verbal cues. You don't say something, but your body language suggests something. It triggers something. the way you react to something. So there's a lot more to learn from just, the words we speak, and then the way we appear during the video call and everything, right? So remote work doesn't really allow, especially if it's a decentralized workspace where everyone is working from different places, and the only way for us to collaborate is maybe via Zoom, via Slack, and all those things. So that's a disadvantage. Now, unstructured creative or productive moments are lost. Let me explain what I mean by this. For many of us that might have been in startup teams or in teams that have required a lot of creativity, a lot of bringing things to life from out of nothing, right? We'll realize that many a time, it's not during that stand-up, it's not during that brainstorming session that you get the best ideas. It might be when you went to the cafeteria to grab lunch and you're just playing with a pen on your table, and then you see someone walk by, someone acting in a way, someone wears something, and then some ideas will drop to your mind, and then you quickly need to share it with, a number of you need to share it with a number of your colleagues, and Alpha, what do you think? Alpha guy, Alpha, this idea just drop, or make me talk this, and then boom, boom, before you know, you found solution to it. But then if you're in structured, the meeting is 9 to 10 a.m. on Zoom, on Google Meet, sometimes the ideas don't come at that time. All right. I read something from Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, YC. He said he missed physical on-site, YC sessions because many a time it was when they were physically sat with the founders, when they went out for a beer at the pub, when they're having the after hours chat and everything, that most of the solutions that they collaboratively get for the founders come, not even when they have the structured session. So we lose a lot of these things with remote work. All right, let me quickly finish. Making the best of remote work. Proactive communication. So number one, you know that your communication is already on the deficit. So you need to be more proactive, right? Ask to speak with your colleagues outside of the structured, the stand-up is 9 to 9:30 a.m. But please apply with discretion. Try not to encroach in other people's personal time, other people's space. So ensure you seek consent when you're trying to ask for communication outside of the actual structures and everything. All right, so you need to be proactive. You don't need to wait for people to ask you something. Try to, and this is how asynchronous work thrives best. As soon as you get the information that your colleagues need, drop it there. Whenever they are online, they will pick it up and all of that. Don't wait for people to chase you. All right, it makes remote work really irritating. So virtual collaboration tools, as much as possible, whatever you can do to make collaboration seamless, provide it for your team, or make sure you provide it for yourself, whether it be Zoom, whether it's subscribe for Zoom. Don't let it be when it's 40 minutes, Zoom will cut you people off. When this conversation just want to, the real gist, you just want to hit there. No, don't do that. Make sure you provide the collaboration tools for your colleagues. So manage your time very well. I mean, to be honest, this time management thing, every day I wake up, including weekends, before the night before the next day, I always write out the list of things I want to do. I create so that leads to structuring my day. I block out what I want to do. So first 2 hours of the day, maybe I don't want to have meetings. I want to do some brainstorming. I want to do whatever. I want to work on my whiteboard, whatever. I structure it, because if you don't, remote work, once you're working in your comfort zone, it tends to just take you as, anywhere below face, as the wind blows, right? So these days now that that football season is back, you just find out that if you not plan yourself, one match where you don't forget, you just drop your laptop, you start. Before you know, you have missed deadline. They're asking you how far, they're querying you. So you need to structure your day and really plan. So workload management. This workload management is really important because when we're working virtually, right, we tend to think we can do everything. No worry, you drop it on your to-do list. You get to a point where the work will choke. So you will need to really structure it and prioritize the most important work and all those things, right? Excuse me. All right, so you need to be a self-starter And you need to create that self-starter culture and team for you to make the best of remote work. Really, people who don't wait to be given instructions, people who go ahead to just, this needs to be done, I get it done. No one needs to tell me first. And that speaks to the maturity of the team that you have. You need high-level focus, try different work environments, but set up for comfort and efficiency. All right. This is really important because you might want to work from your friend's house today. You might want to work from the beach tomorrow. I mean, people do it, and I would advise you to try it. You know, I mean, it's really soothing. Just go to a safe beach. You know, one afternoon, there's no crowd. The breeze is blowing your head. You're just with your laptop in one corner. It's really sweet. If you are privileged to be able to do that, do it. Right? Try different work environments, but set up for comfort and efficiency. Setting up for comfort and efficiency means having all your tools that you need where you are, ensure there's power, there's internet, all those things, and ensure that you are comfortable. It's not where maybe it is too hot or whatever, you know, just ensure that you're comfortable and you have everything you need to work efficiently. But try different work environments. It will really, I mean, one way to even prove this is what Oluchi was saying before. When you work from different places in the world, maybe you're working from Maldives today, you're working from Ghana tomorrow, or I know it's an expensive lifestyle, but the belief is that all of us will be upwardly mobile, and at some point we're going to achieve that, right? Try different work environments, you're exposed to different things, and then you will learn to think about solutions in different ways. All right, deciding. Okay, now finally, as you are deciding which work mode to adopt, consider the size of your team. All right, so how large is your team? If you're a team of 2 or 3, you may not necessarily need to go into the office, right? You may not want to incur the 2 million per month rent for office space, and that's on the small side these days, right? So average work experience or career stage of your team members. So there's some companies that mostly early career people, they've not learned to be very professional and everything. You might want to create an hybrid structure, an on-site structure where people learn to work with other people first before they go to remote, and you are sure of working very well independently. Look at the regions of your operation. So the market you're operating in, you know, where your administrative HQ is, and consider all those things. So the type of core company operation. So, I mean, if you're building physical jets, let's say you're building physical planes, all right, will you set your engineering team to work remotely? No, they have to be on site to work on the materials physically, right? So, but then if you're building software for an airline company, you can afford to work hybrid or remotely and just check into the days, cross-check your parameters, cross-check all those things that you're following standards, right? So it really depends on your core company operations. Don't work remotely just because of it. The stage of your company growth, there are sometimes that maybe your company is about to achieve product market fit, and maybe it's still a small team. A lot of things are breaking. You need to work around the clock. You need to break the 8-hour-a-day rule. Man, you need to bring everybody together and then do a lot of, getting a lot of things done. Sometimes it might be difficult to, especially for the core decision makers, the core problem solvers in the company, it might be difficult to scale. So think about your overhead cost. I was supposed to give a case question, but I think I'm really out of time. Maybe in Q&A we'll do that. Thank you so much.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful session. Guys, can we get some reactions in the chat feed? That was quite mind-blowing, and I know there's still so much more you would want to share. When we get into the Q&A, I'm sure some of those would come off. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I like how you've taken the discourse from what remote work is not to what it is, and then what to look out for when you're trying to either transition into remote work, or you're just yearning because every other person, is doing remote. You're looking at this remote work is like, that's where the team is. So you are thinking that maybe we should go remote. You have time to relax. You can sleep on your bed and work and stuff like that. Of course, it makes sense. But as you said, workload management is a big deal with remote work. There's so many people don't have time-based to-do lists. They just have a rolling to-do. And if you're working remote, you can get sucked into working almost 24 hours if you don't take care. You literally just know, okay, you have things to do. As far as you can get food to eat, you sleep, you wake up, you're at your desk again. Get food to eat, sleep, wake up, you're at your desk again. And it can be very, very bad for mental health, right? Some workaholics like us didn't used to think it was a big deal. We used to think, oh, there's nothing there now, at least we're getting work done. As a matter of fact, the 1.4 extra hours per day that was recorded for most people is about 5 extra hours per day, because you literally just sleep and eat. That's the only thing you do again. Every other time you're in front of your laptop. When you sleep, you wake up, laptop, eat, wake up, laptop. So thanks for pointing out a few of those things. I have some questions that I've gotten from the discourse, and I'm going to ask them during the panel session. But that was pretty insightful. The key takeaway for me though is that every startup, every company is different. From everything you shared, I've been able to pick that you need to do what works for you and not what is in vogue per se, right? I like how you introduced the hybrid model. I mean, a lot of people do hybrid model these days. Even those of us that say we do remote work, it's hybrid that most of us really do, because we still go to the office once in a while, right? There are few companies in Nigeria that work fully remote currently. Very few companies in Nigeria, very few startups. Although I work with one, there's a startup I co-founded with a few friends, 2 of us, 3 of us, last year, October, Questa Gate. We've not seen each other since then. Since we started this business, I've not seen my co-founders. We have 8 team members. I've not seen one of them. Okay, there's one that works that I know that's close to me, is a friend. We used to see. Besides that, I've not seen my co-founders. I don't even, if they are in Lagos, I'm not sure sometimes. If they're in Nigeria, I'm not sure sometimes. Actually, I know we're getting work done. And that happens, yes. But most importantly, what works best for you? And I like how you described, the working in a plane and aircraft company. If you're an engineer working physically on aeronautics and all those things, I better go to the office before they fire your ass. And then if you're working on software, of course you can work remotely. So thank you so much for that. We'll get into question and answers much later. I'm going to now invite Oluchi to come share a few things with us. Oluchi will be speaking on the tenets of remote work as well. So I'll yield the mic right about now. Oluchi, please, you've got the mic.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mayowa, for that. I mean, that was a very fantastic session, and I got to a lot. I even think that you've covered almost 50 to 60% of what I have on my slide. But then I think I would stay share. I don't know. I think Mayowa, you're still sharing, right?
I'm canceling that now, so you can share yours. Okay, good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So let me try to share my screen. Before I do, just a minute.
While Oluchi is setting that up, I can see the question is already popped up in the Q&A feed. Thank you for putting that out. We'll get to it during the panel session. If you have questions and you want us to, you want to drop them right away, please do that. You can just go to the Q&A feed and drop your questions so you don't forget. If you want to write them down, just put it there. And then when we get to Q&A, we're going to ask your question and it will be answered out live. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Let me just make this full screen. Yeah. All right. So I'm talking about growing a business in the world of remote work. I think Mayowa has already done justice to the feature of remote work and just defining what remote work means to us. I have a couple of that in my slides, so I would most likely skip some few slides just so that we don't keep repeating the same thing. Yeah, so I'm just going to talk about challenges of remote work. Yeah, because remote work is really important, and we've seen Mayowa has highlighted some of the advantages, some of the importance, some of the beauty that it brings to both, startup and workers. Sometimes I mean, as much as I love remote work, as a worker, sometimes I feel like it is scam, right? Because of the work-life balance thing and the fact that, you get to work like over hours. And I think that, what Mayowa said about working a day, 17 minutes over a month, I think is even, it's just trying to be really, really good with the numbers, because I think it's even over that. Some people even work like 24 hours a day, which is so not cool. But yeah, so this is just defining remote work. Mayowa already did justice to this. I'm just going to skip so that I don't bore you with that. Benefits of remote work. Definitely, Mayowa already touched base on some, right? But advantage of in hiring is very important. It's one of the beauty of remote work as a startup founder or as an employer, right? And then hiring of skills is not just being able to hire international skills, right? Because most international companies, this is like a top one advantage for them of remote work, right? The fact that they get to hire cross-functional team across different countries and different culture. Sometimes it's cheaper. You see some of these people coming to Africa or Nigeria to hire skills, right? Because it's cheaper for them, right? And they get to pay less depending on the country that they're hiring from, right? But bringing this to Africa, bringing this to even Nigeria, right? There's also beauty in, there's also an advantage in hiring, right? Because like Mayowa mentioned, right, you have somebody who stays in Paja, and you're asking him to come to work like every day on the island, to come work on the island. It's super stressful. And if that person sees something better close to him, we definitely go for that over coming to the island to work, right? And it doesn't matter like how really nice your office space is, or what you built in the office is, right? Everybody wants that comfort, right? And they want to enjoy the comfort of working from home, working around home, right? So definitely you get to lose skills, not even international skills, not even local skills that are not really around you. You get to lose skills if you don't. If you don't adopt remote work, and it depends also on the kind of startup that you have, right? And then because of the popularity or the adoption that remote work is having, right? A lot of talent, especially really good talent, right? They demand that as one of the top offering that your company has, right? So it's gone are the days where this might not be 100% true, right? But I feel like the days where companies get autonomy over deciding who to hire, right? Or having the upper hand in hiring, right? I think that those days are slowly getting to an end, because right now talents are in high demand, and then talent has a say, right? Those days, when you apply for a job, you just want to work in the company. But now, for especially top talents that know what they are doing, right? They ask you questions in the interview, like, okay, what does the company have to offer? What's work-life balance like? What's the culture like? How do I get to work, right? So there's more and more jobs opening, more and more startups opening, right? And then there's competition for skills, right? So different companies want to place themselves in the right light, right, to acquire these top talents. And remote working is one of them. I don't know if you've noticed, but almost 90%, even like 90% of most company hiring, right? One of the when you get to the point, on the JD, when you get to the point where they talk about what you would get, remote work is like there. You don't see remote working flexible. Either you have flexible working time, or then you have remote working, or some even have it on our website, right, as 100% remote, or 99.9% remote, or 98% remote, because they have seen that a lot of employees are beginning to demand for that, right? And they're all trying to position themselves in light. Also, look, operational cost is part of that. You don't get like rent a office, right? And it even depends on where you are, depending on where you're trying to create your company. There's some places, say like in Dubai, if you want to set up a company in Dubai, you need to have like a workspace, right? You need to have a workspace for it. There are different kind of setup. There's one that doesn't require you to have like a workspace. There's one that requires you to have like, at least like a co-working space somewhere, right? And it's expensive because you get to pay like per month or per year, right? So in those kind of environment, right, why do you want to if it's a tech company or a software engineering company, going to rent an office space might not really make sense. Or even in Nigeria, that our currency is, sort of like devaluating right now. It has been on that path for a while. Things are getting really expensive. Operational costs are getting really expensive. So this is one way that companies like get to rid themselves of some of these operational costs. Progressive approach as well as one of the advantage, because as a company it shows that you're progressive, right? If you adopt a remote style, right, or remote culture, because there's this way employees would perceive such companies that offer remote working and companies that don't, right? So it seems like you're progressive and then you're planning for the future, because yeah, we had a pandemic outbreak and I'm not praying for another pandemic outbreak to happen, but like Mayowa said, the remote working has existed before the pandemic, right? But it wasn't very mainstream and it wasn't very popular, right? But the pandemic had to force a lot of companies to go remote, and they were not prepared for it, right? There were a lot of companies that were not prepared for it. Productivity like really went down in most companies because they didn't see it coming. But there are some companies that were already remote before the pandemic, so it didn't even change anything. For instance, Crevatal, we fully operated remote. Like when we started, it was fully remote, right? So when the pandemic came, like it didn't even change anything. There was there was nothing. Like work continued, nothing happened, nothing changed. There was no product. I mean, of course, the whole pandemic stuff, like a lot of people were falling sick and all of that. But apart from that, right, it didn't really change any of our system, right? So right, thinking remote keeps you, it helps you be progressive, right, in your approach to business. Of course, for the employee, less commute time. There's also greater flexibility. It could also promote work-life balance, depending. I said it could because it depends on how it is structured, and it also could lead to high productivity depending on how it's structured. And definitely, we've seen some of these advantages play out during the COVID. This is just some stats how the world is adopting remote working, and most of these stats became very predominant during the COVID-19 period. So you see that from here, it is from like media update. It's that over 44% of global companies have embraced remote, right? Some of this, different companies, different stats, and it depends on the area or the survey, or the people that were surveyed, or it also depends on the locality that was also surveyed, right? So you would see like different numbers online. You would see like different numbers online. Some persons you see 15%, 16%. I got this from about 34% of global companies are beginning to adopt remote work culture, right? So this could be hybrid or remote, or fully 100% remote, right? But this is the start. It shows that remote is gradually beginning to get some precedence in the space. Like a lot of people are getting to understand the advantages of this remote culture or remote working, which means that it's good that we position most your company position or your startup position for this advantage, and if your company really needs it, right? If like Mayowa said, right, if you're working in, if you're a pilot or something, or you're an aeronautic engineer, like you mentioned, right? Remote working doesn't make sense in that sense because you need to be at work, your tools and everything at work, right? So this just shows you like the number of employees. Like, so a survey was done for employees to just see how much remote working has sort of like positively impacted them, and then you see that a lot over about 55%, right, of people that were surveyed said that it was extremely satisfactory. Which is a good one. But then those are like the advantages, and then we definitely have disadvantage. Like I said, we have challenges for both the startups and as well as the talents themselves. So for the startup, we have things like managing projects. It's for remote culture, depending on how the startup is structured, managing projects might be very, very challenging if it's not structured right. Right. A lot of people have seen, some companies have seen like low productivity. A lot of startups are complaining about like talent, right? Talent has always been an issue, right? For startups and companies, just finding the right talent, right? And then we moved into like a remote settings, right? A remote settings give, especially, and I'm going to speak. I know Mayowa, you talked about like product managers. I'm going to speak about developers now, because remote working, I've given a lot of people, has opened a lot of people's mind, right? to like different possibilities, right? So before, if you were working full time in an office, you need to be in the office from 10 a.m. to like 5 p.m. You're working, you have your colleague working beside you, you have a supervisor, probably in the same office or the next office. You really can't do 2 jobs at that time, or you really can't do 3 jobs. I mean, it's very difficult to like manage that because you are being checked. Do you understand? From that time to that time, you're at the office, right? But with the advent of remote culture, right, working 2 or 3 jobs does not become a thing, right? So you see people, especially developers, like they're working like 3 jobs or 4 jobs or 2 jobs, and all within like this time space. And depends on how they're managing it, right? If they're not able to manage it effectively, you would see that your company might probably be deprioritized when it comes to like projects, right? You see that, okay, when somebody has like 3 or 4, right, and you're working like within the same time frame, they're either prioritizing 2 over the others or 1 over the others, right? And your company might end up being the one that is being deprioritized, and then you see issues with projects, delivery time would drop, and all of those stuff. And people right now, startups are already like experiencing this kind of challenges. You have lack of team communication. Communication goes beyond just getting it go beyond just like a way for people to just exchange exchange challenges, like talk about what they're doing or blockers, all of this stuff. It also goes to the management, right? The founder being able to communicate that vision to the team, being able to communicate the vision to the team, being able to communicate, right, the objective of the company or the product for that period of time, or even the goals, right, to the team, right? So you see a lot of issues with communications, even in physical workspace, right? Communication is reduced. Communication orders or issues are reduced because you get to see your colleague face to face. If you have any issues, you just walk down to the person, you talk to the person, and you can resolve stuff. You can see their verbal attitude and what other messaging they're passing to you beyond just what they're speaking. But that's a bit different with remote working, because sometimes it's on chats, and chats can be misread, misinterpreted, miscommunicated. So a lot of communication issues that as surface from remote working. And then we have like trust and commitment, right? Being able to build trust and commitment. A lot of startup founders are failed in this, right? To be able to like build the team trust on the product, or even in the team, and in the vision, right, of what they're trying to like build, as well as getting the team to be committed. And commitment speaks like, if I'm not, and it also depends, like Mayowa said, depends on the experience level of the team, right? If you have mostly beginners, like some startups do now, because of the cost the cost that is required to hire, very top, like highly skilled top talents, right? You see people going for like beginners and intermediate, right? Most of these people are not, sometimes some of these people are not very mature when it comes to like remote workspace, right? And then you see that they have challenges just following through with communication or even committing to the project. And sometimes they have issues even settling down, right? It also comes down to like how you even onboarding your team, how you giving them the right resources to like settle down into the team. So you see a lot of challenges around this part. Technology issues at home, especially in Africa, in Nigeria. I think remote working in Nigeria and Africa even has more problem, right? Especially with, you see people complaining about internet issues, electricity, and the laptop. Those are the 3 key things that people complain about. Today, your staff can tell you that, oh, sorry, I can't join the meeting because there's no light in my area. Especially that time, I think to a period of fuel scarcity, a lot of employees took advantage of that, right? Today they're telling you that there's no fuel, also I'm in the filling station, and they probably are chilling somewhere, right? You never can tell because of course it's remote work, right? So a lot of things, there are a lot of challenges that can fall under just having the right technology, the right internet, the right laptop to even because you're constantly going on calls, especially when you're using Chrome to go on like meetings, right? These meetings require data. It requires you to have like a steady power supply, and then also a good laptop that has like a long battery lifespan, right? So these are all of the challenges. Of course, you have lack of productivity, geographic and cultural barriers. This applies to international teams, like remote teams that have colleagues like in different parts of the country. You see that some communication is a very big and it's a serious barrier. And then I have faced that personally on different international teams I've worked with, right? You're having to you're trying to like brainstorm on the call, and people are understanding the same thing differently, right? And it's very hard to sort of like communicate or just pass your message across, right? So you see those kind of issues happening, as well as, you know, even maintaining leadership, who is in control, who has like a final say on something. And then of course for remote workers, you have things like overworking, like we've discussed. I mean, this has been discussed extensively already. Maximizing productivity is a bit challenging for some remote workers. Overcoming distractions, because sometimes you work, some remote workers, you work from home, right? And if you're not, I mean, if you are in a family that don't really understand the nature of your work, right? Your parents, I mean, I've seen some cases like that where your parents think that, okay, you're just less busy, you're not doing anything. But I mean, you're working, but because you're there, right, there's a lot of, I mean, distractions that can come up just by working at home. And there is a big issue with staying motivated, because we can't even though we're pitching remote work, we can't also overlook the aspect human communication, human interaction, physical interaction. It has a lot of things to do, right? People, I mean, COVID also taught us that as well, right? Where, I mean, there was like little social interaction, little social gatherings, and then I mean, everybody felt the effect of that, right? Because you're mostly at home. Sometimes you feel, I mean, a lot of people had depression, illusions, just being at home, being homesick, and all of those stuff. Like, imagine waking up every morning to your laptop, sleeping on your laptop, right? At some point, you develop like serious demotivation for work. And I mean, there are a lot of things that can come, a lot of health issues that can come from that, right? And then this is just like a start on how employees are sort of like finding it difficult, maintaining a work-life balance in a remote culture. And you can see that, most of it is like, it's at the remote is like rate is higher when it comes to like being overly stressed in work. Experiencing anxiety, right? It's really high. And because of this, a lot of top talent, I really know what they're doing, they know their stuff, are looking for a company with great culture, right? So at some point, for some top talents, right, money stops being an issue, right? So when they're coming for an interview with a company, right, how much there would be pay is no longer an issue, right? Is now, what culture does your team promote? What's the work culture here? Because I mean, at this point of their life, or at that point of the life, you're looking for something more rounded, more that gives you a good percentage, right, or a fair balance when it comes to work and life. So those are some of the issues that you'd see with remote working. And then if we go to things to consider, right, why setting the business in a remote world, right? So we've talked about the advantages, talk about disadvantages. I mean, there are a couple of advantages. There are also a couple of disadvantages, and it depends on how the startup is set up. It depends on how you run your startup, right? That depends on how much of these challenges or this problem can be covered, right? So one of it, which I feel like is the topmost, is workplace culture. Like, what workplace culture are you promoting, right, in your startup or in your company, right? You need to be able to promote the right culture. And a lot of companies, that's why a lot of remote companies are heavily investing in workplace culture. How do we ensure that our employees are not burnt out, right? I mean, a lot of things come into play when you're talking about workplace culture. Some people have like mandated leave period, right? That no matter what, you need to go on leave, right? Some companies will force you to go on leave. Some companies provide, healthcare, HMO, gym membership, spa service, and all of those stuff, just to ensure that the employees are well, catered for, right? When it comes to culture, some companies also provide good. Some companies do no work Friday, right? So on Friday, no meeting Friday. So on Fridays, colleagues get to work, but nobody is asking for reports or updates that Friday. So it's no meeting Friday, right? So it just gives you a sense of, there is freedom. But I mean, that they know that they have duties or something to like to give updates on Monday, right? So there are different ways to promote, good culture in the organization, and depends on what the company is looking out for. But this is the one major thing, one very important thing in to achieve productivity in a workspace. You need to have a workspace culture, and it doesn't matter how small your company is, right? A workspace culture, you need to start practicing it from the initial, from the early period of the startup, because if this is not planned into your startup structure, right, it could be a major challenge, in the future, right? When your company begins to scale, it becomes really hard to like set up all of this work culture. But you're able to it doesn't matter how small, right? Those things that you can just begin to introduce them. Okay, just say, okay, Fridays are no meeting day, or Fridays are these. We're going to have like a team bond session on Fridays. Some companies do that, where they have team bond session, because communication is really key. And in a physical working environment, right, people get to understand themselves better compared to a remote working environment, because you don't get to see these people. Sometimes employees don't get to create bonds between other employees. They just see themselves as work partners, right? And you would, research has shown that employees that see themselves as more as a family, right? They get to the productivity they get to produce better than employees that see themselves as just work, right? It's just my colleague, right? Because you just come to work, you have meetings, you do your update, and everybody's off to work on their own, isolated, right? So sometimes you see these kind of things coming up, right, in work environment. So these are things that we need to look into. I'm going to quickly round off. Communication is also very important. There needs to be clear communication. And like I said earlier, communication is not just about colleagues speaking with each other, or colleagues being able to speak with employee or employers. It's also about how the company is setting goals and communicating that goals and vision to the team, right? In a workspace or in a remote workspace, ownership mentality of your team is very important, because if your team has the right ownership mentality and are proactive, right, you don't need to be chasing them, right? You don't really care. There's a lot of culture that you can introduce, right? You don't really care if they work on Monday or they work on Tuesday. The idea is that work is being done, job is being done, and they have they own the company, they own the vision, they own the goals, they own the mission as though it's their own company. And you can only achieve this when you write the vision, you make it plain, and then others can read and they can run with it, right? So over communicating your company's vision, goals to your team and employees is very important. And this is where some startup sometimes miss it, right? So you get carried away by like different activities, different stuff that's happening with the company. And sometimes some colleagues are left in back. They don't even know what is going on in the company, what's the key objective of the company, what's the vision anymore. They're not able to like relate to all of these things. And these are very important for to have like a very productive remote culture. We also have invest in culture building, right? Invest in things like, introduce regular team offsite. In Crevatal is a Nigerian company, and we're fully remote, right? But what we did sometime last year was that we started introducing, offsite, right? We had one offsite in Lagos, right? So you don't have to take a team overseas to have an offsite, or to have an average where all the team can come together and meet each other. And I can't really emphasize the value of that, right? So it makes sense to work with a colleague for like 5 years and it's not in person, but it's the productivity and communication and collaboration is better if you can introduce something like this. So you could rent an apartment in Lagos, or say in Abuja, fly the team down there, and then have like 3 days where you have like you guys get to work together offsite, create the physical working environment, and then you go back to remote. We did this in Crevatal, and we saw how a lot of things greatly improved for the team. You can have team bonding calls. You can have like maybe once in a month. You have town halls. You have team socials that you can do online or offsite, right? And you can also encourage team members that are probably close to each other to see, right? Sometimes a team member can travel to another team member state or country. You can encourage them to say, okay, this person at Obi is in your town right now. You guys could hook up and you could meet. For these are things that you could also encourage. Work-life balance is something else. Building structures for accountability. This is very important because, like I said, a lot of remote teams struggle with accountability, struggle with delivery, struggle with progress, right? And getting progress reports, sometimes you can't really see what employees are doing, but what is being done, right? So it can lead to frustration for the employers. The only way to get around over this is to like set up, clear structures and accountability, something like, clearly defining the products or the company's OKRs, setting team KPIs. So each team member know what they're responsible for. Everybody knows what the delivery is for the month, what the delivery is for the quarter, what it is for the year, and everybody's like working towards that. And this has to be over communicated. There need to be weekly checking calls or even daily for product team, right? You can't sometimes you have issues with too much meeting in a week, right? But this is a remote team, right? If you're able to effectively balance, right, meeting times and check-in times with the remote team, right, you'll be able to achieve a better remote culture. Enable worker with the right tools so that you don't have like people complaining, giving excuses about electricity, internet, and sometimes enabling your workers with this can be cheap depending on how you execute this, right? So there are different ways to go about executing this. Then security practices is also like the last thing I want to also like bring to light, because and depends on what your startup is about. Security is really important because we've seen how hackers are taking advantage of the remote team to send messages from employers to employees and all of those stuff. So I think these are things that we greatly need to consider. And with that, it brings me like to the end of my presentation. And the key thing is the future of work is definitely remote. Remote can be 100% remote, 50% remote, 30% remote, no matter how you're defining your remote to be, right? The future is remote, and many companies and startups are beginning to, it's going to be great if you're able to encourage remote culture, especially if it fits well or it suits your business, because the advantage definitely supersedes the disadvantage. And three most important things that companies should look out for when setting the remote culture is the work culture, the accountability, and the communication tools. So I think I would end at this point. Thank you, everyone. Sorry if I took a lot of time. Thanks.
Oh boy, that was loaded. Come on, thank you so much, Oluchi. That was really, really loaded. Guys, can I get some reactions in the chat feed right about now? That was really loaded. I mean, I know you had to cramp everything together to be able to deliver what you did. Thank you so much for working within the time frame. It's massive. Sincerely, when one begins to talk about remote work in the peripheral, it doesn't look like a big deal. It just looks like, let's just not go to the office. As far as we're not going to the office, we're fine. But when you begin to look at the intricacies of it, how to set up remote work that's blocked, right? There's so much more that has to go into that kind of a system beyond what we are used to. So thank you so much, Oluchi, for that insightful one. Really, really insightful. So much knowledge packed into that session. Thank you so much. We're going to go off into our panel session right away. So just right away was dabbling into the panel session. I would create the indulgences of both panelists to turn on their videos so that we can do that right about now. Please turn on your videos, Oluchi and Mayowa. Let's get straight to it. So much questions. And I'd like to just go straight to the very core questions, and maybe we'll try and answer the peripheral questions somewhere around there. But I'll start with this very, very first question. How do you ensure team productivity? How do you ensure team productivity? I have had an issue with this personally, working with different teams. Even as a team member myself, right? There are days, guys, let's not lie to ourselves. Naturally, even when you go to the office, there are those days that are just off. There are those days that you just don't want to do anything. You're now working, let's say you're now working from your house, and you are now in that kind of a day. I will not lie to you. It can be tough because my duvet is right there looking at me. My bed is right there. And I don't want to work today. I'm not feeling like it. I very likely might not be productive that day. There's a very high tendency I might not do serious work that day. And that is almost a day that is gone, right? Even though I might cover up for it later that night, some people might not. Sometimes I might not myself, right? How do you deal with things like that, right? So you don't see your people when they work. You know how I see. I'll try and make this relatable as possible. All of us know high service is a big deal in Nigeria, right? If they see you, even if you're not doing anything, after they are seeing you jumping up and down, you're the one going here, going there. When they say this one, you're the first person to stand up. All those things used to give people the vibe that, oh, you're working, even though you're not productive, you're just being busy up and down, right? But when you're working remotely from wherever you are, you can't, it's rare, it's hard to, do that kind of high service. So as the employer or the team lead, how do you ensure, your team members are working? How do you ensure that they are productive? And Mayowa, please answer first. Let's keep our answers very short so that we can take as many questions as possible, right? And then Oluchi, I'd like you to also answer the same question after Mayowa does. Mayowa, go ahead.
Okay, great. How do you ensure your team
productivity?
You mentioned something which I would like to correct a lot of founders, and I think this is a cultural problem for us in Nigeria. To be honest, you don't ensure they're working. So you creatively craft out your deliverables, your performance indicators and everything to accommodate for things like this. We are all humans. I mean, when employers and bosses and whatever act as though they are infallible as well, I mean, it irks me because we are all human, right? We've all been there, right? If you are leading a company now, you've been an employee before, most probably. So you felt these things that they are feeling now. So you need to craft out your performance indicators to accommodate for those things. And that is why things like asynchronous work came into play. There are some people that they are night crawlers, right? And there are some people that they work better during the day. So make sure that maybe what you're doing is that you're setting markers during the week. So I used to do this thing where we used to have daily stand-ups, but further into remote work, I've learned to see that some people, daily stand-up might not work for them, right? You might just decide to set your markers to be twice a week, 3 calls a week, all right? So that you allow people to manage those periods themselves. So how you ensure that they're working, set KPIs and indicators that reflect productivity, not activity. Right? So maybe for a dev now, maybe you want to set markers for a dev now, you don't need to say that, if the person did not push any updates, or the person did not push any commits, or the person did not make any pull requests between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m., they're not working. What if they're doing much more than they're going to do between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.? What if they're doing it between 12 midnight and 4 a.m.? All right. So you just manage the timing, ensure that your check-ins reflect productivity, reflect end results, and not just activity. There's something we used to do in IQ labs then that you could apply you can look at your situation and apply it properly. Look at efforts, look at contributions, look at end results, right? Look at the total package. Don't say it's just about, you must be online. And so it's not about being online, it's about getting the job done in the end, right? So just plan. I mean, there's a lot we can say around that, but that's what I would like to say at this time.
Cool, thank you. Oluchi, I'd like you to jump in. And also, Oluchi, take it from this angle. Mayowa just mentioned that it makes sense to set markers, right? Those deliverables, KPIs, and all that. Somebody asked in the chat, in the questions feed, and perfect for time for you to answer this. Can you advise on the best tools to assess and measure deliverables and task execution rates of your team, right? What kind of tools then? So if we're supposed to just, of course, you can't tell if they are working or not. Sincerely, the only way you can tell is when you see results, right? And just like Mayowa mentioned, productivity, not activity, right? But what kind of tools then do you use to assess, deliverables, task execution, and all that?
Yeah, so I think that it greatly depends on the kind of, I mean, if you have in a company, right, or it depends, you have like different team, you have the product team, you have the engineering team, you have the marketing team, right? So you have different team and different, you set different KPIs for different teams, right? So for your product team, you're looking at, okay, what feature are we releasing, right, to the users? Which user problem are we solving? For marketing, like, okay, what is our acquisition rate? How much, depending on your product, what's like a sign up rate? I mean, people are we getting in? What are the strategies that we're executing externally, right? Engineering, you're looking at, okay, what's the code depth? How much, how much of the features are we able to develop? What's the delivery time? How long does it take to deliver, something like this, right? And sometimes you can compare with different standards, and also depends on the level of your team. You get, so there's a lot of things that come into play to sort of like deciding what KPI or even how to track those KPIs for like your different team. Because if you have a team full of beginners, right, you can't compare the productivity or the delivery of that team to a team full of top talent, right? Working on the same thing, they will deliver faster than your own team with beginners, right? So it depends on what you see. But what I wanted to add is communication, right? So I think communication is also one part of tracking and seeing like because like Mayowa mentioned, a couple of these things you can't really see them. Like, for instance, if you are as a dev, right, I'm tasked to work on maybe something, right? There are a lot of things that come into play before even working on that particular task or even getting into the code. You have to do your own research. You have to do research. You have to decide on about the high level implementation plan for that particular feature. And then you have to, when you start implementing, there are some challenges that you encounter that you probably did not envision before, right? All of these things come into play, and that's where communication comes in, right? Effective communication. So if you have a clear way of communicating blockers, right? So there's a challenge here, and your team, you've been able to build an effective communication structure into your team. You're able to communicate these things effectively because, right? So in a remote team, there's this thing about flexibility, right? You can work. I mean, some people are night workers, some people do wear in the morning, some people do in the afternoon, but then there's something called dependency, right? Where my work is depending on your work, right? And you're a blocker for my work, right? And then because my work is depending on your work, somebody's work is depending on my work, and then the overall KPI is depending on this thing to go out, right? So you see that there's a lot of interdependency even within team, right? And if you're not able to do effective communication, I mean, you might have, if for instance, today I'm not really feeling okay, I'm not 100% that I can't work, right? Then there needs to be a channel to communicate that to the team, and the company needs to create a culture that is easy to communicate, because some companies' culture is not very easy to communicate, that you can't really come and say, oh, sometimes you'll be scared of saying, I'm not feeling too well, I need to go to the hospital. Some people are scared of doing that on that team. So you're not able to give in, you're able to be productive, but you're still there. You're still online, right? Time to take some time off to rest. You can't do that because your team culture doesn't give you that environment to do that, right? So we need to put that into play and startup needs to be able to like build that communication culture around that team that makes it very effective for people to communicate. Because when you have a KPI, these things it's still the team that is going to do that. If they don't do it, nothing is moving forward, right? And if they are doing it and there are issues along the way, those issues need to be unblocked. There need to be a way to unblock issues. There needs to be a way to communicate, right? So I think communication is one very key way to like ensure that. I mean, one of the team I worked with, right? You can take off as many times as you want. Like if you're not fine, you communicate and you go off. And then when you communicate, the product manager or the company, they were able to like then say, okay, this thing is something that can potentially hamper our roadmap. What do we need to do? What does growth need to do? Do we need to communicate? What kind of communication? So you're able to plan effectively if there's an effective communication system. If there's no effective communication, then you have two things going sideways. I think that's what I probably have to add to that.
All right, Mayowa wants to add a few things to that.
It's just one thing, not a few things. So
one thing.
A way to track. Okay, if you want to know if your team, your team members are working, especially remotely, is when you have new work given to them, or even if it's work that they're used to, especially like early career people, if they ask you questions, most probably they're working. All right, and it's just a simple test that you might say just questions, but because working in tech startups, you find that you encounter a lot of new challenges every day. So if you have people asking questions, I encounter this thing, what's going on? How do we solve this? How do we? that's an indicator that they are putting their mind to it, that you're working. But the thing is that many times you as the leader, you need to set the pace. Something I do for teams that I work in, maybe I should not say, but anyways, something I do for teams that I work in, that sometimes I ask questions that I probably have an idea of the answer, but I want to encourage people to feel free to ask questions and communicate. So I ask questions myself. So when people are saying, oh, if a guy is asking questions, why can't I ask questions, right? Right. So set the pace for that. So asking questions is a way you can measure it.
Thanks for that. And I hear communication a lot in, all this, which truly is a bedrock for long distance. I'm calling it long distance now because I can liken it to a long distance relationship. The only thing you have is communication. There's nothing else you have to do, right? And that's basically the relationship we now have between team members. One person is working from maybe Egbeda, the other person is working from Lekki, and that person is in Yaba, and that person is in the UK, one person is in Dubai, and all that, right? We don't see each other except for maybe Zoom platforms. There's no interpersonal connection. And this is the question now that I have. How do we now deal with communicating culture, right? Workplace culture, and fostering interpersonal communication, interpersonal relationships when we are decentralized in quotes, when we work from different places, probably even different times as synchronous working. How do we communicate culture, right? Because I know that one thing is very important. One thing about workplace culture is if you're not deliberate about it, you will create another culture that you don't know. If you're not deliberate about creating a culture, you'll be creating another culture that you don't know. You'll just wake up one day and realize, this is how things are. Your employee will be telling you that's how we do things now. Oh God, that's how we used to do it. That's how we used to do it. And you are wondering, when did that happen? Right? So how do you effectively communicate? Oluchi, please come in here. How do you effectively communicate workplace culture? And also, how do you foster interpersonal relationship when you work remotely?
Yeah, so let me start with fostering interpersonal relationship. There are different ways you could do that, like I mentioned, right? Team bonding is one of those ways, right? And then you can do team bonding remote, and then you can do it off call. Most times on some team where I've worked with, right, international team, I found out that it is easier to communicate one-on-one than to communicate in group, right? When you have everybody on the call and you're trying to brainstorm something, right? A lot of times, especially when you have international teams, right, it's hard for you to, people are understanding things differently. They are saying stuff, and then you see meetings are supposed to be like for 30 minutes, going over 1 hour, 2 hours, and then there's no end goal, right? So one-on-one communications, one-on-one interaction really, really helps. So doing communications in silos, right? So depending on the team, depending on how your community is or your company is structured, right? So you could ensure that communications are done in silo, and then you have one larger communication that brings everything together, right? So I mean, when we say communications, right, some companies, some startups even get it wrong. Like you said, you're trying to introduce a culture and you're introducing another cultural problem, right, which is meetings. A lot of teams complain about too many meetings and it distracts people from work, right? So today you're having meeting here, meeting there, meeting there. Before you're done with all these meetings, you're tired. I mean, you can't really do work after going on those meetings. So yeah, communication is not just about having meetings, right? That async communication. And then communication also comes down to how tasks are being issued. Like I mentioned, right? If there's a task and you're saying, okay, create this, I'm talking like for engineering team now, you're saying, okay, this is what we want to build as a product. This is it. We want engineering team to build this. Now, that thing that needs to be built has a lot of things that needs to go into place for it to be built, right? So that major thing needs to not be broken down into smaller tasks, right? Into smaller achievable tasks, and then they're given to I mean, you can then assign to like the team members, and then you are tracking progress based on those individual small tasks. And it's going to be very easy for you to brainstorm, for you to like give feedback on those tasks. And when you have everything, you just have like a huge goal or a huge task assigned to somebody, right? So that's like, it comes down for like breaking things down, even from the top to the bottom. That's like one. That's also one way of communicating, and that way is creating like a culture, right? I mean, creating a system that encourage people to sort of like communicate. So people might be having blockers, like I said. A blocker can be a blocker to somebody else, and that person might be blocking somebody. So you just have like a chain of blockers and you're not achieving anything, right? So if there is a system that encourages people to communicate blockers, right? So communicating blocker does not mean that you're incapable of doing this work, that you can't do it, but we know that challenges come up, right? So you have an issue trying to resolve this issue. Even in marketing, sometimes, right, you're trying to close a particular partnership and this other person on the other hand are not really responding, right? And you need this partnership to be able to like do something else within the company to like to move on that campaign in the company. Communicating that blocker means that we can find a way, like which other way can we chase people, right? So if they said a problem half known is a problem known is a problem half solved, right? So when there's effective communication, not just in terms of like having meetings, but in terms of like the tasks that needs to be done clearly, clearly breaking down the tasks, clearly defining what the success criteria of that task is or what needs to be done, right? And it comes and it also like people, it also comes down to management, right? So because all these things comes down from management to the least person in the hierarchy. What do we want to achieve as a company? What is our vision? What is our strategic positioning, our strategic goal for the company? That's one thing first, and that should be communicated, and that could be communicated via maybe you have like once in a month town or where you bring everybody together and you remind them. You have to keep reminding people. You have to keep reminding people to keep them like to put them in for that to always keep ringing in their head, right? That okay, this is what a company is doing, and this is where I come in. People need to always know where they come in and where they fit in the bigger picture. If not, people feel displaced, they will have issues with work, they won't put in their best to like do it, and it boils down to ownership, right? So communicating from top, the bigger picture, the bigger goal, and then you're breaking them down into like different bits until it gets to like the last person that needs to do it. And then communication again starts from the last now. Report start going up, right, from the lowest person on the hierarchy to like the top person. You just keep passing them by and then ensuring that you're resolving blockers, that people are communicating. You're encouraging people to like use different means to communicate. It could be meetings, it could be async discussion, it could be creating a thread on Slack for a particular aspect or a particular topic that needs to be unblocked or that needs to be given more light on, right? So I think that's one way to do for just general company communication. For inter-communication, I think encouraging team bonding, encouraging, like I said, offsite, right? Sometimes it's not very expensive. When we did ask for Crevatal, when we did an offsite in Nigeria, in Lagos, we flew down most of our employees, and it's not the cost for doing that is not as high as the cost of unproductivity, right? Because what we noticed is that after that offsite, there was like, my God, like work rates really increased because it felt like people now understood the vision afresh. They now understood the mission, the goal, what we're trying to achieve, and where they fit into the big picture. And I think that's what a lot of companies, that's what a lot of employees don't know. And because of that, right, it's very hard to. I mean, a lot of things that come into that. A lot of things that just happens as a result of that, right? So, I think that's my addition to that.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that. And just to add to that, I remember there was a time when I also noticed my team would be taking a wrong turn because we used to do hybrid, and our hybrid is sincerely largely remote for most of the guys who work on my team. You probably see them once a week at the office, and then the rest of the week you might not see them, right? And I noticed at some points that there's no fluidity, in the way there's no gist. You get now normally as employees, there'll be gist, you have inside jokes, and those kind of things that you need them, but you don't know you need them because they help you to communicate better as team members. They help you to work together better, but they are just not structured, right? And I remember we just started doing something where every quarter we try to hang out, and then sometimes we just go get like an Airbnb. Everybody's in there, for the weekend, and it's fun. There was a time we had to go climb, we went to the canopy walk together. It was cool. Some of us were crying, some of us were forming balls because some of us we were jittering inside, but because you had your guy, you have to keep quiet and be calming down for everybody. But it was fun that everybody could do that. We have jokes to talk about. We look forward to what next, and really it creates the team bonding that you mentioned. So yes, thanks for that. And then I also wanted to point out, just to add to it, I think documentation is also a very important thing in communication. in the world of remote. Documentation, Notion, having Notion boards, having Miro, boards and stuff like that would really, really help. Document and never get tired of documenting. Never get tired of documenting. Any single team member that is added to your team, give them the bunch of documents. This is how we work. This is how we play. This is how we report. This is how we do this. It really helps to pass that culture around when you are not, physical. You don't have your meetings physically. People can't see the way you're doing things. They can only expect to be told what to do, or if not, they will bring the culture that they are used to wherever they are and bring it here. So I think documentation is one thing that we should also add to. Mayowa, please come in. I know you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just one thing again. It's good we have put in the processes, documented what we want our culture and our work, whatever it should be like. We have set the tools, we have done everything. But there's one thing that kills culture a lot in companies. And I find that a lot of not so experienced founders fall into this trap.
Mm-hmm.
You are the one that sets the culture. Let me tell you the truth. You might create a 10-page document, hire an experienced HR. We have to set everybody straight, whatever. If you are not walking the walk and talking the talk,
yep,
team will do as you do.
Yep.
Period.
Yep, sure.
You even find a situation where, and I'm really particular about this because I've seen a lot of I relate to a lot of founders, and I realize that this is how they end up becoming toxic, because there's a vision they want to achieve, but they are not leading towards that. I mean, that's why you're a leader. Like, you set the pace for others to follow, right? So if the standard is 9/10 for the company, you set your own standard to be 11/10. Let everybody see that you are always early to meetings. You communicate with respect. You lead with empathy. You ask questions at the right time. You turn in your own reports at the right time. All those things. When you're doing all those things, people will naturally not want to drop the ball because they know you are not. So that's important for business leaders and entrepreneurs on the call to. I mean, there's something in companies that have been involved in, especially in the last 5 years. What are you doing? If we are supposed to have a stand-up, me as the PM or the business leader or the business manager, I have something to report as well. So I'm not coming to stand up and say, hey, Alpha, what have you done? What have you done? Like one Oga teacher or Oga headmaster. No, I'm coming to say, hey guys, this is what I've done as well. These are the blockers I am facing. Right? And then people are like, okay, I got to show up too. And sometimes you can even create culture that way without even documenting yet. But please document. How they always document. But what I'm saying, I mean, you don't lead it, you will eat up the culture you claim you want to create if you don't set the pace yourself.
Yeah, team members generally tend to mirror the actions of the team leader. Either we like it or not. It just happens. And before you know it, they will do it to their own subordinates, and then those ones will do it to their colleagues. Before you know it, the thing. I mean, personally, I like to learn from my experiences a lot. And the things that I do. Personally, I can work any time of the day. I can work in the morning, I can work in the midnight and all that. There was a time I had to even cut down on some things because I realized, okay, I'm beginning to create a culture that I don't want to create, right? If I wake up and I'm working at, say, 2 a.m. and I need something, right? I would go to the chat of my team member and text you immediately and say, send this thing to me. If I find that you are awake and I see you online, I will be expecting you to respond, right? Because, I mean, you are awake now, right? But if you don't respond, it's not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem if you don't respond. It's not your working hours, except if that is the stipulated time that you have told us that you are working, right? Except that is only when I'm supposed to expect anything from you at that point in time. But if not, it's a privilege that I'm able to come to your chat and ask you that question, right? And I shouldn't be enforcing. So if you don't respond to me, I have to nip myself in the bud early enough to know that, wow, Oga, people sleep. people sleep. Because this is how I know. When I send that kind of a message in the midnight around 2 a.m., my team member wakes up around 5 a.m. and then he's telling me, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just seeing this. And now I'm looking at, I'm like, no, hey, wait, calm down first, calm down. I know I asked you the question. You don't have to respond. So what I do sometimes is I rather ask myself the question in the notes. I will ask the question, I would say for you, but I'll put it in the notes. In the morning when I know that, okay, you have resumed, I'll now come and copy and paste the question for you. Because if not, I would have been creating some sort of impression that anytime I ask you a question, you must respond. You get that kind of thing. So what team leads do is very important. And you will see it will happen because middle management will now begin to do it to the team that they also lead, right? Because and if they will talk, they will say, have you ever in the midnight? And then I'm texting you, you're not responding. Osubu is the standard, for midnight communication. But really, I definitely buy that. I totally understand how that one should be very, very careful with the things that we do as leaders, because it sets the pace for culture that is being, as much as you are documenting, live that culture. I mean, my team members know you cannot come late to meetings. I will be waiting for you, number one. But by the time you now get there, you now come late. There's this issue. Naturally, we're not strict, right? But meetings are very important and they are very strict because we respect everybody's time. We already say, okay, this is what we're going to do and this is the time we're doing it. So let's just do it and let everybody go and go back to their individual lives. But that's that. Now, somebody's asking a question in the chat feed saying, what happens when your superior are not recognizing the amount of effort that you put into work because they can't see you physically? Now, this is that Nigerian factor thing, right? Even when you put in extra effort, what do you do as a team member? Your boss does not know what you do. According to this person, they are not recognizing the amount of efforts that you have, that you're putting into work, even though you're doing, more. What happens then? What do you do as a team member? Oluchi, do you want to jump in first?
Yeah, I really wanted to answer that. So I'll raise my hand up. And I've seen this like in a couple of places, right? And I personally, had this issue on a particular team that I used to work with, right? I realized that I was doing so much, right? And I wasn't getting the kind of recognition I should get. And I'll see someone doing less than I'm doing and is getting so much recognition. I'm like, what's going on? Are they not seeing the impact of what I'm bringing, right? And sometimes, right, it also depends on the team structure, right? How the team is structured. Sometimes you can be doing so much and somebody else is like taking the glory, right? Because you are sort of like depending on the way the team is arranged, right? So what I discovered was that and this could apply, this could not apply to whoever is asking this question in that case or that scenario. But what I realized is that this person knew how to communicate effectively. He knew how to communicate better than I do, right? On what he was working on, right? So if there is something that he has worked on, what he will do is that sometimes he will make it into a document. He will even make it into a slide sometimes, right? Highlight like the key things that has been done, and then we share it, and then we tag everybody, right, to the team. And he doesn't even just share it, right, with just the link. Because this is very interesting. He doesn't even just share it with the link. He also put the key pointers, like a summary of what he has discussed, right? Because sometimes people will not even click on that link to go and check the document. It's probably be later, right, that they go click on it, right? So he then puts the key pointers and then he puts like a key next steps, right? Where he's asking people. I said, this is just like being proactive, right? Doing stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is just amazing. Right? And I mean, it was very proactive and efficient, right? I mean, he did the same thing. I mean, he even did less than what I did, right? But I was working in the silence, right? I was working behind closed doors. I was doing the stuff from the background, right? But what the thing is that we work in a very fast-paced environment. And sometimes and that's what that boils down to work culture as well. Being able to like sometimes calm down and just analyze, right? Look at what is around us, what is going on, check up with people, right? We don't have that culture everywhere, right? But you see that people are just like doing stuff, like the co-founder or the startup founder is thinking about the next thing, especially when you have investors breathing down your neck and you're thinking about how do we raise money, how do we raise funds, how do we do this, right? So you're just thinking about so many things at the same time and you're able to like look into like, okay, what are people bringing, right? I mean, everybody's doing stuff, but sometimes people are not. It also boils down to culture, right? So you have to force them, and you have to put it on their face, right? And it also goes beyond even just workplace, to like just the world in general. You see this in like, you see people that might not even know up to like what they're out there and they're saying stuff. They're talking about what they are doing, what they have worked on. They're talking about themselves. They're going to meet ups, going to meetings, speaking, and they're getting a lot of opportunities, even more than you. That's very good. You can put your life into the job, you can do the stuff, but you don't get as much opportunities as they do, right? So it goes down to like blow your trumpet. I love the way you said it. So you have to blow your trumpet, you have to blow it, and you have to keep blowing it until they hear it, right? You have to keep doing that until they hear it, right? So if something applies to a workplace culture, you have to be proactive. You have to speak up and let them recognize like what it is that you're doing, except you're someone that just likes to be low key, right? Okay, you don't really care what people have to say, what's review, you just want to do the work, you just want to know in your mind that you're impacting the company, except that, right? But I think that it also depends on how you're communicating what the work that's been done, what you've done. It depends on how you're communicating that. And it shouldn't just end in the workplace, even in life in general, right? Even life in general, outside of the workplace, outside of your own comfort zone.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I would also buttress that with something totally out of tech, totally out of remote work. But Don Jazzy posted recently, I think about 2 days ago, after he released the first EP of the new guy that Marvin signed, and he posted 3 different charts. He posted the chart of Ira Star, he posted the chart of this guy that he just signed, and then one other person. And how that he reached out to them first through their DMs. And now captioned it and said that he was only able to do that because he was seeing the work that they were doing on their social media, right? They were doing stuff and they were posting on their social media. That was where he saw them and thought, oh, wow, these guys are doing well. Let's see how we can engage them. So many of us are private people, right? We are quiet, we are introverts. We cannot see this blow your trumpet thing. It's hard for some people to do. You just want to do your work in silence and just know that you have done your part. And people like that are usually very instrumental in the organization because they spot problems a lot, but they don't talk, right? You know what other team members are doing wrong, but they won't say anything to their boss. They won't say anything to their team members. They will grumble and rant, maybe to their friends, right? Or maybe they have a colleague on the team that they are very, very open with. They can do that, but they won't talk for everybody to know. They are doing a lot of work, but you won't know. So for instance, there was a question someone was asking me one time. Says, what do you do when your team lead always gives you work to do? The person knows that you are very productive, and you know the reward for productivity is more work, right? So because they know that, oh, you are productive, they will always give you more to do, right? Guess what? You still not blow your trumpet, though. Nobody knows you're doing extra work, but you're doing a lot of work. So I think we should just find ways to really blow our trumpet, as Oluchi said. Find a way to pass across the message that you're doing a lot, and all of that. Guys, I know that our time is fast spent. In fact, we've overshot by about 30 minutes. I really, really would like to crave our indulgences for that. We're going to round off now. We have so many questions more, but I will do well to email some of these questions to you guys, Mayowa, Oluchi, and if possible, you can answer them right later on and then send in these feedbacks, and then I can share with, we can share with the guys. There are other groups of people within the community that will still watch this video much later and have their own set of questions. And we'll collate all those questions together, send them to you guys, and then, it would be lovely if you can just, give your comments and then send back so we can share with the guys. We've spent so much time here today, and I know if we continue to discuss this thing, there's so much to talk about. So I'd just like us to give parting words of wisdoms, 1 minute each, from both sides for now, and then we can call it a session. Then, of course, we'll continue to engage with you people on different platforms. We'd also be sharing your social media, LinkedIn, particularly your LinkedIn profiles with the guys within the community, so they can reach out, try to connect, probably ask 1 or 2 questions. I know some people might come in for mentorship. If you have a structure for that, beautiful. If not, please let them know. some of us, we don't have time for mentorship. It's just that this work is too much. If you can be mentoring from afar, no problem. But if you have a structure for that, please let them know and all that. But we'll share all that with the people much later. Let's have words of wisdom now from both of you, 1 minute each. Oluchi, please go first, and then we'll have Mayowa go next.
Yes, I think it will still come down to what I said on my closing slide. In a remote work culture, as a startup founder, you need to put in 3 things in consideration: communication. How do you ensure that your team is correct and communicating rightly? You need to also put in structure for accountability and KPI setting. You need to be able to that's very important. I mean, I think that's one key stuff as well. And then as well as setting the right culture, ensuring that you set up the right culture for the environment. And for remote workers, right, that's for the employees, right, these are questions you should ask, right? It shouldn't be, it's not just about the work, right? Because health comes first, right? If there's no health, there's no tech. That's why I tell people, if there's no health, there's no tech. You can't tech if there's no health. And if you make all the money because you're trying to work, and then you have to spend all of this money on your health, right? There is no gain, right? So I think that you should put your health first. These are the questions to ask when you're going into any work, when you're into any workplace, right? You want to know what the work culture is like. You want to know if there are leave days, right? Or if it's a flexible work hour. How does it work? Are you strict on flexibility? All of these things are things that you should ask your employers, right? When you're going for an interview. I think with that, I would end it on my side.
Thank you very much. Mayowa, you got the mic.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, Shugu. Thank you, Oluchi. I mean, it's been an amazing conversation. So what I will close with is saying, remote work. The most important thing for you to know as a founder or as an entrepreneur is do what works best for your team. Evaluate your situation and make decisions that work best for you to achieve the results that you need. And don't be afraid to evolve your culture with time. So you might start from on-site, but at some point you realize on-site is not exactly necessary because you've built some kind of team strength, core strength that can thrive even when people are off-site, all right? Feel free to evolve to hybrid or to fully remote if that's what you need, all right? So don't follow the wind, do what works best for you. And if you end up setting up a hybrid or a fully remote work mode in your office, know how to execute it well. I mean, Oluchi has mentioned a lot of great things, talking about communication, talking about setting KPIs, talking about all of that. And one thing I just want to add again, like I said earlier, please talk the talk. Walk the talk, whatever they say. You as the leader set the pace for your team. If you're working remotely, don't be the one to be late for the meetings. Don't be the one to submit reports late. Don't be the one to send messages at odd hours and demand people to respond. And all these things just gradually take a toll on people. So for the sending message part, I even wanted to comment on that. If you sometimes, right, you might actually forget to send the message later in the morning. So something I do is, if I send a message at a particular time, I know that my colleague will be sleeping, I will just put in brackets, please, you don't have to respond now. Wait till I will actually put it there that don't worry, sleep, just come back to this later. Because if you don't put it, some people might just assume that, So ensure you lead with empathy. Put yourself in the position of other people and set the standards for yourself. I mean, with that, I believe you'll be all good. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for being here, Oluchi. Thank you so much for the work you're doing at Web3 Ladies at Crevatal. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much. Mayowa, thank you so much for being here as well. And for the work you're doing at Endowd.Africa. Awesome stuff. Thank you guys. We definitely hope that in the future, we're able to get you guys, around again for some other, conversation with around tech and entrepreneurship. We hope we'll be able to do that. Guys, can we have a final farewell for, Mayowa and Oluchi from the chat feed? Just to say thank you. I would like to just get some quick feedback, how the session was, what you guys thought and everything. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. To everybody who attended, thank you. It's been a wonderful session. Lovely chatting with you guys. And I definitely do wish you a wonderful day, beautiful weekend. Mayo, what you go do like this? This Madam de Maldives. We are here in Lagos, but it's fine. Shall God go help us? Well, let's go and maybe we should go to our own Maldives.
Because I didn't show you guys the. I didn't show you guys the view. The view.
Why not?
Okay, I think
you should.
I
You
think
should
I was
show
on.
us.
Let me see. Let me change my
Your background is blurry.
settings. Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, God.
I think it's.
Pepe then. Oluchi Pepe then.
No way.
So
Awesome.
that's the beach over there that you could walk on
When
anywhere.
Mayowa
And I'm
said,
just
when Mayowa said, go to the beach and walk, you did not even know that she was
Go
right
to the
there.
beach.
But beautiful, though. Awesome
But then
stuff.
Zoom made it easy for you to be in the beach because you can just have like a beach background setting. Like, I mean, if I use this one.
You know.
Can you
imagine? Can you imagine? There's no breeze. There's no breeze. It's that one. There's no breeze. Anyways, thank you so much, guys. Lovely session. Please do enjoy your weekend and hopefully see you some other time on the show. Bye-bye, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.